the story of white boy Rick, a kid who became a police informant at 14. No baseball games or girl crushes, just drugs. By 16, he was dealing, shot by someone in the neighborhood. No cap, no gown, no future plans. 18 and a lifer, busted for cocaine. A juvenile sentenced to life in prison. The facts can make it hard to feel sorry for Richard Wershe Jr. He committed the crimes and then committed more from behind bars. But as the story of white boy Rick plays out, there is much more to it. He's 47, 29 of his years spent in prison. Murderers, rapists, violent offenders out before him. He goes down in history for doing more time than any other non-violent juvenile offender. He has made many mistakes, but he's also been an invaluable asset, an FBI informant behind bars. Agents say he did more to help the FBI bust dirty cops and drug dealers than any other informant in Michigan history. Still, the parole board denied his release. Now, another chance at freedom. He did the crimes. Has he done enough time? A new chapter in his continued fight to be on the outside. Tonight, the white boy Rick story. Good evening. We're glad you're with us tonight. I'm Devin Skillion.
And I'm Kimberly Gill. Tonight we take an in-depth look at the story of white boy Rick and his fight for freedom.
Local 4 defender Kevin Dietz has followed this case so very closely, following every development as it has occurred. And tonight he's going to take us back to the story from the very beginning.
Right now, Richard Wershe Jr. waits for the parole board to vote on whether he should be let out of prison. Last Thursday, he spent more than 4 hours in front of the board during his first hearing in 14 years.
His family, of course, remaining hopeful that the parole board will vote to release him. Kevin, you were in that hearing room in Jackson.
Yeah, and the room was filled mostly with friends of Wershe and supporters, friends and family, even a few retired FBI agents pulling for Wershe's release. But that did not mean this would be an easy hearing, not by a long shot. In a small hearing room inside a secure prison in Jackson, Michigan, Richard Wershe sat answering tough questions from an assistant attorney general and 2 members of the Michigan Parole Board. Wershe's goal to convince them he has admitted his crimes, learned his lesson, and will be a productive member of society if released. Just hours before the hearing, Wershe told me by telephone he was nervous.
A lot of sleepless nights. I mean, I guess at best I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. It's a big day. I mean, 30 years in a cage and I have a chance to get my life back, and it's nerve-wracking to say the least.
Inside the hearing, Wershe stayed on point, saying, quote, "All I can do is try to be the best man I can be from this day forward. I can't look back." But Assistant Attorney General Scott Rothermel did look back, saying, "Tell the truth. We can see right through the lies." Wershe testified that on May 22, 1987, at the age of 17, he was in a car that was pulled over by Detroit police. Inside the car, a clear plastic bag with around $30,000. Wershe, now a 47-year-old man, admitted the money was given to him in exchange for cocaine. Wershe says he ran from the police to his grandmother's garage where the cocaine was hidden. He grabbed a box with 8 kilos of cocaine and hid it under a porch a few streets away. Then he apologized to the board and insisted that today he despises drugs more than anyone, saying, quote, "I know that the drugs I sold destroyed people's lives, destroyed the community, cost me 30 years of my life. And I feel I have done the time and have been rehabilitated. I wouldn't return to that life." It was a grueling 4-hour hearing that left Wershe's sister Dawn hopeful.
I think he's very remorseful for the crimes that he's committed, especially while incarcerated. And I can tell you, he won't be back. He wants a new start. He wants his family. He wants his kids. You know, I mean, he's missed his children and his grandchildren growing up, let alone my father. We haven't buried my father yet, so when he gets home, we'll do that also.
And Wershe's mom, nervous.
I'm going to pray for him, that he deserves to get out. And he told all the truth that he could today.
The hearing got heated at one point when Assistant Attorney General Rothermel got into Wershe's 2005 conviction for his role in a stolen car ring from behind bars. Wershe introduced his sister to a used car dealer in Miami. Wershe's sister ended up reselling stolen cars. Wershe's mom bought a stolen car. Wershe ended up pleading guilty to 2 felonies in exchange for his mom and sister not being charged with crimes. In the hearing, he said, quote, "It was a big mistake. I was trying to help my sister. She was raising my daughter at the time." But then Rothermel read from another report, a criminal who claimed Wershe planned to load the stolen cars with cocaine to increase profits. Wershe became visibly agitated, saying, quote, "That's false. I never pled guilty to no drug shit." Rothermel responding, "I'm going to ask you to calm down, sir. Take a deep breath." Wershe paused, took a breath, and the hearing continued. Outside, retired FBI agent Greg Schwartz calling the line of questioning inappropriate and untrue.
Most of that in there that this guy was asking questions about, it's false. And yet he just assumed it was all true. Well, did you do the investigation? Did you speak with the investigator down in Florida? No. Well, I have.
Schwartz says not only was Wershe recruited and paid by police as a 14-year-old 8th grader to buy drugs and snitch on dealers in Detroit, but while in prison, he was the key to a major sting operation that led to nearly a dozen arrests. Schwartz calls Wershe the single most important police informant in Michigan history.
I've never seen anybody cooperate like Richard Wershe. I mean, he literally had the safety of undercover agents in the palm of his hand, and he always did the right thing.
Retired FBI agent Herm Groman was at the hearing too. He says Wershe helped law enforcement in many important national cases too.
When Wershe was in the Federal Witness Protection Program in custody, how he cooperated on a number of matters there, including a murder plot involving a major organized crime figure from New York.
The parole board put on the record that Wershe got into trouble once for gambling and twice for fighting during his nearly 30 years while incarcerated. Attorney Ralph Muselli insisting Wershe's 29 years served and his cooperation with police against other criminals outweighs his drug dealing as a teenager and criminal conviction and violations from behind bars.
Enough is enough. He spent enough time for what he did. The proportionality is starting to overwhelm.
Wershe closed the parole hearing telling the board, quote, "I'm nearly 50 years old. The only thing I can tell you, I'm not the person I was." Then promising if released, he will stay out of trouble, saying, quote, "All I can give you is my word that I'll never commit another crime. If you don't want to believe me, I understand. I'm a criminal, but all I can give you is my word as a man." After the hearing, I spoke with Wershe by telephone. He told me the hearing was difficult. He wanted to focus on the good things he has done while locked up, but the questioning kept circling back to the mistakes he has made during his life. He realizes the board does not take parole lightly, and he was grateful to get a chance to make his case after all these years.
Now, Kevin, you've followed the developments of White Boy Rick's story for years, traveling even to prison to speak with Rick Wershe about his life and why he thinks the parole board has refused to let him out.
A teenager when all this started, and now Wershe served, as we mentioned, more time than any non-violent juvenile offender in Michigan history, but you've spoken to him frequently during all this time.
Yeah, and when you sit with Wershe, he's not intimidating, he's not a scary figure, and even though he dropped out of school in the 9th grade, you can tell he's intelligent. He seems to have a hard time saying no to people, and when police asked him to help bust drug dealers at the age of 14, he was all in.
Yeah.
This is Rick Wershe decades ago, a skinny kid with moppy hair, a 17-year-old boy arrested for selling 8 kilos of cocaine. The media gave him the nickname White Boy Rick, and it stuck. A judge sent him to prison for life without parole, and while in prison, he was convicted of partaking in a stolen car ring from behind bars. He told Local 4 way back in 1990 that he made mistakes, but was willing to make up for it by turning in some of Detroit's most powerful people.
7 or 10 police, that's nothing. The corruption runs so deep in there, it's a shame, man.
More than 10,000 days have passed since Wershe was first locked up. The Michigan Constitution no longer allows life sentences without parole for minors arrested on drug charges. But Rick Wershe is still here. He is now a 47-year-old man. 29 years have passed. It is unheard of for nonviolent juvenile offenders. Even more bizarre because Rick Wershe has cooperated with police.
He provided information that resulted in the conviction of a lot of corrupt police officers.
Greg Schwartz was the FBI agent who turned Wershe's information into new arrests. He says Wershe should have been thanked by the Michigan Parole Board and released from prison years ago.
What do you got against a kid who was 17 years old, who now has spent half of his life behind bars?
To find out more, I drove to a prison in northern Michigan, where I sat for hours with the drug dealer known as White Boy Rick. Cameras were not allowed inside.
Should have got the key to the city of Detroit. Anyone that looks from the outside in, Kevin, they're like, wait a minute, something's wrong.
When you're talking to Wershe, he doesn't sound paranoid. It's more he's confused. He can't figure out what it is that's keeping him locked up for so long.
The government's convincing me that, oh, we're going to do everything for you. We're going to help you. You don't know how much this means to us. We couldn't have done this without you.
Wershe tells me the same parole board that has released dozens of rapists, murderers, and drug lords refuses to let him out because he helped police go after powerful people.
I embarrassed a lot of people, but all I did was what I was asked, and all I did was tell the truth.
In an attempt to shorten his prison time, Wershe gave the FBI information that led to the arrest of family and friends of Coleman A. Young, the former mayor's favorite bodyguard Jimmy Harris, his brother-in-law Willie Volson, and niece Kathy Volson Curry were all arrested as a result of Wershe's cooperation.
He was extremely upset at me for, I believe he called me a stool pigeon for turning in corrupt cops. I thought any mayor would love to have corrupt cops off of their force, but to Coleman Young, I was a stool pigeon.
Wershe also provided information on one of Detroit's most popular cops, Gil Hill, a homicide boss who appeared in the Eddie Murphy movie Beverly Hills Cop.
I don't want to see any more of these blue slips. We're not going to see some arrest slips.
Wershe said he heard a phone conversation where a drug dealer responsible for the shooting death of a 12-year-old kid called Gil Hill asking for help.
Basically, Gil told him everything that was going on and, that he had it under control and that he would be in touch, not to worry about anything.
Gil Hill was investigated but never charged. Hill publicly called Wershe a liar.
I think there's no doubt that it's related to my cooperation about Gil Hill and about police corruption in Detroit.
Wershe was also helping the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. Mike Duggan, who is now mayor, was prosecutor at the time. Mike Cox, who went on to become Attorney General, was assigned to find out what Wershe knew about the same murder Gil Hill was accused of covering up.
I spoke to Mr. Cox 3 or 4 times at length about the murder. I explained everything to him.
Wershe was not given a medal for cooperating with police, and when he got his one and only parole hearing in 2003, the promises made to help him get out of prison were broken. Wayne County Prosecutor Mike Duggan wrote a scathing letter recommending parole be denied, and then U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Collins rescinded the office's recommendation for release.
Everybody told me I had nothing to worry about, that I cooperated, that, no one would oppose my release, and then all at once, all had something bad to say about me.
The parole board denied his release, and for 11 straight years has refused to give him any additional hearings.
There's someone or something that's keeping me in prison, and it's not the crime that I committed.
Wershe's attorney wants an investigation into the parole board and is asking the federal courts to intervene.
I don't know who would still want him in. To me, that's the million-dollar question.
Before Rick Wershe was arrested by the cops, he was working for the cops. He was only 14 years old, a freshman in high school. His father, who was also a paid informant, gave permission.
They showed me some pictures and asked me who this person was, who that person was. I basically identified them, and they said they would be in touch. The relationship grew from there. It went into them sending me into houses to purchase drugs and stuff like that.
Soon, Wershe was collecting hundreds and eventually thousands of dollars to cozy up to criminals and help police bust them.
I was asked to go out there and get information about some people that were involved in the drug trade and their connections and how the drugs were coming in.
These documents obtained by the defenders support Wershe's story. They show numerous payoffs for information.
Over the course of 2 years, I would say probably somewhere around $30,000 maybe.
He wasn't even old enough to drive, but was already buying cars with money given to him by law enforcement. Wershe was getting paid. Police were making arrests. Everything was working out until at age 15, Rick Wershe was shot by a suspicious drug dealer.
I was shot and I never went back to school. I started the 9th grade, and when I got shot, I never went back.
I don't use the word tragedy or injustice lightly, but I use it emphatically when I'm talking about Rick Wershe.
Scott Bernstein is an author and a true crime historian. He has researched the Wershe case for years. He says what police did is unconscionable.
This is the prostituting of our youth and then just throwing them in a cage and throwing the key away.
After the shooting, police stayed away for a while, but within a few months, they were back. And this time, they had an elaborate plan, a road trip to Las Vegas.
It was a Hearns-Hagler boxing match, and they wanted as much information as I could on a drug organization in Detroit.
Detroit boxing sensation Tommy Hearns was to fight Marvin Hagler in a match the entire sports world was buzzing about. Big-time drug dealers were going to attend, and the feds wanted the 15-year-old Wershe to be right in the middle of it.
The government is the one that provided me with the fake ID.
The task force thought sending Rick there with a fake ID and some cash would really raise the ante on the operation they were conducting.
These reports document payment for the flight, the room, and walking around spending money. The investment paid off. Wershe's information led to a bust of a major local drug operation. Then, police suddenly stopped coming around.
They turned their back on me. I was a 17-year-old kid. I was addicted to the money.
His drug dealing days lasted 1 short year. He was busted and convicted of having 8 kilos of cocaine. He was sentenced to life in prison. Police called him a drug kingpin, and he was tagged with the nickname White Boy Rick.
I think that the reputation far exceeds the actual person that is Rick Wershe and what exactly he was doing during that time period.
He was eligible for parole more than a decade ago, but the parole board refuses to give him a hearing. Arrested at age 17, he is now a 47-year-old man.
I think it's a true tragedy and something that, an injustice that needs to be, a wrong that needs to be righted.
They got me involved in this, and I was a kid. I made a poor decision.
Wershe tells me he takes full ownership for his crimes as a teenage drug dealer, but he feels the parole board should take into consideration that it was the police who taught him how to sell drugs in the first place.
All right, Kevin, we're just getting started. Detroit mayors, police officers, and celebrities. White Boy Rick is associated with many who's who of Detroit, but did you know how he met up with former Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick? His legal advice to the former... Welcome back. Rick Wershe acknowledges his crimes and he has served his time, but also points out that murderers and rapists have served less time than he has.
Yeah, because remember, he was convicted as a nonviolent juvenile offender. In fact, the parole board routinely releases criminals arrested for carjackings, drive-by shootings, attempted murders, and other violent crimes after 10 to 15 years.
That's what's really hard to comprehend. Why is Wershe still in prison when violent offenders have been paroled? You're about to hear from a former member of the Michigan Parole Board who is troubled by the board's actions in the Wershe case.
They stab people in prison and commit violent acts in prison, catch another case in prison, and they're paroled. Why am I so different?
To find out why, we went to Robert Aguirre, a retired police officer who also served on the parole board. The problem is, he can't figure out why violent offenders are getting out of prison and Wershe isn't.
I've released people who were armed robbers, some who had committed a murder. So why not him? And that's a great question. I don't know.
He says the single drug charge and a single car theft case are classified as nonviolent crimes. Aguirre says keeping Wershe locked up is cruel and unusual punishment.
I voted to have Rick Wershe released. It made sense. There was no reason in this world that he should still be there.
There are currently 10 members on the parole board. We went to a public hearing and were told cameras are not allowed inside. The members are appointed and paid close to $100,000 a year. In 2003, the board denied parole after Wershe's one and only hearing. In 2010, Robert Aguirre insisted on another vote.
The board voted not to allow him to have another public hearing.
In 2012, board member Barbara Sampson reviewed the file again and refused to give Wershe a hearing, saying they would take another look in 2017. So Wershe sits and sits longer than any nonviolent offender locked up as a juvenile in Michigan history. The cost to taxpayers, approximately $800,000. Former parole board member Robert Aguirre attended Wershe's hearing last week as an observer in support of his release. He sent a lengthy letter to current board members detailing why he thinks they should vote to approve his parole hearing this time around.
Well, lights, camera, action, Hollywood is all over the White Boy Rick story. We take you behind the scenes of filming in Detroit and Cleveland and the important meeting between actor Matthew McConaughey and Rick Wershe.
One might at least have the hope that they will see the thing in context and say to themselves, oh my God, young man, drug offense, look at how much time he spent. That doesn't make sense.
He's a lawyer from some of the country's most high-profile cases, from O.J. Simpson to Patty Hearst. His thoughts on White Boy Rick's freedom right after the break.
Hi, I'm Jeff Feiger.
We'll continue the story now with a man who's considered to be one of the country's great legal minds, involved in a lot of high-profile cases, including O.J. Simpson, Mike Tyson, the Patty Hearst case, and now we should mention the female genital mutilation case that's happening in federal court here in Detroit.
Right, and Kevin has spoken to several experts and insiders about his case, including attorney Alan Dershowitz.
That's right. I traveled to New York to meet with Alan Dershowitz. He examined the Wershe file in detail and was not holding back any punches when it came to his position on Rick Wershe's continued incarceration.
This is the Klaus von Bülow case that I was the appellate lawyer, and you don't get too many cases where the reversal of the conviction makes the front page of the New York Times.
Attorney Alan Dershowitz has an office full of memories from the big cases: O.J. Simpson, Mike Tyson, Patty Hearst, Jim Baker. He has a letter President Clinton sent him in his final days of office.
And had two young people on the same page, a young guy named Bill Clinton and a young guy named Alan Dershowitz.
We went to New York City, the Big Apple, to talk to one of the biggest legal minds in America about Michigan's longest-serving nonviolent juvenile offender. Dershowitz examined the court pleadings and says it doesn't add up. He can't see any reason Rick Wershe should still be behind bars.
This is a terrible, terrible injustice.
Yes, Wershe sold cocaine, but he was 17 years old. He has no record of violence. Dershowitz says Michigan is treating him worse than a killer.
The idea that he's being kept in jail because of something they know but won't share with him or the general public is completely antagonistic to American democratic principles.
Remember, Wershe was one of the best police informants of all time in the state of Michigan, helping federal officials put dozens of bad guys away, including dirty cops and former Mayor Coleman Young's brother-in-law and niece. Wershe was promised his cooperation would earn him favor for release. Then the feds double-crossed him and said he should stay behind bars.
It's very tough to be an informer. You're risking your life when you inform against tough people for the government.
Dershowitz thinks Wershe should sue the government for breach of contract.
When you're an informer, that's a job, and promises are made. Those promises should be enforceable.
Some say Wershe deserves to be where he is, especially because he screwed up in prison by getting caught up in a car theft ring. Dershowitz says that was minor and has nothing to do with this outrageously long incarceration.
Parole boards look for any excuse to do nothing, and this conviction while in prison provides the perfect excuse for doing nothing.
So why is Rick Wershe still behind bars?
There's someone or something that's keeping me in prison, and it's not the crime that I committed.
Dershowitz suspects it's mostly politics. He says the United States Supreme Court has let Wershe down.
It's a violation of the spirit, if not the letter, of the cruel and unusual punishment provision. This sentence has so many constitutional problems that one would hope a court would look at it very skeptically.
Dershowitz has spoken with Wershe's attorney and has offered to help if needed. His expertise would be in the federal courts if Wershe is denied parole once again.
Well, the White Boy Rick story involves many famous faces, movers and shakers in Detroit from his time as a drug dealer on the streets until now behind bars.
We've already highlighted a few of those tonight, but there are a couple of unexpected relationships that Wershe had, Kevin.
That's right, and one is with musician Kid Rock. The two grew up near each other, and Kid Rock spoke on Wershe's behalf at his 2003 parole hearing. The plan backfired when police told the parole board they were worried Wershe would get out and get caught up with a troublemaking wild musician crowd.
He had researched and known the truth, and he was like, man, this is wrong. The guy didn't come down there like because he's a rock star or a rapper to say, oh, drugs are okay or any of that. We've had discussions, and he was like, man, this is wrong. These people have been lied to, the community's been lied to, and he just tried to help me.
That's one. Another interesting connection White Boy Rick has is with former mayor of Detroit, Kwame Kilpatrick, and behind bars of all places.
As we know, Kilpatrick is serving 28 years in a federal prison for racketeering, but before that, Kilpatrick spent 18 months in a state prison for lying about his income and failing to pay the city of Detroit court-ordered restitution payments.
Kwame Kilpatrick and Rick Wershe ended up in the same prison block and chatted often. Wershe was right next to the former mayor the day Kilpatrick received a phone call to inform him that the federal government was indicting him on racketeering charges.
I talked to him. I walked, as soon as he got off the phone, I said he was pale at best. I mean, he looked gray. And he told me what happened, and we talked a little bit, and I let him digest it for a couple of days, and I told him, I said, I know you think you're smarter than me, but I've been down this road, and I'm telling you the best way to go. I wish you would have listened to me. 28 years, I mean, he did a lot of damage, but I don't think he deserved 28 years.
Fascinating connection there. Now, White Boy Rick has spent nearly 30 years in prison. That's 3 decades of history he's watched from behind bars. We put the time in perspective a little later.
And we look at what's next for Richard Wershe Jr., the parole board decision, and more time behind bars in another state. The White Boy Rick story returns right after the break.
Welcome back to the White Boy Rick story. Tonight, Rick Wershe waits for a decision on his future.
And we won't know until next month whether the parole board will vote for him to be released.
And even if the answer is yes, that doesn't mean immediate freedom for Rick Wershe.
So looking ahead to what could happen next, no doubt more intricately than just about anybody else, his attorney, Ralph Muselli. Ralph, very good to have you with us here. You were there for Thursday's hearing.
I was there. I
know it was not an easy day for your client. You need now 6 yes votes to be granted. How do you feel about it going into work?
We're, as I've had Rick say, and as I've said all along, we're cautiously optimistic.
Why is it different now? What's changed? Because you've been optimistic before.
Well, I think, first of all, everybody that was involved in this whole thing from a political standpoint 30 years ago have all passed from the scene. Mm-hmm. Second of all, the people of the country, through their appellate court system, have decided that for nonviolent crimes, even for violent crimes like murder in the first degree, committed by people that were juveniles at the time, you can't just throw the key away. You have to give them a reasonable expectation of release. And I think the parole board is considering that.
Now, Ralph, I know you testified that a man who admitted to killing 30 people was paroled after fewer years than Rick Wershe. Why are the decisions of the parole board, why are their decisions as important in other cases when dealing with this case?
You're going to have to ask them. That's been, that's the $64,000.
But I thought this was about this was about Rick Wershe, right? That you don't involve other cases.
This parole hearing is about Rick Wershe. All of the people that were involved back in the 80s and 90s in the drug scene, the people that he helped put in jail, like the gang that he helped break. They spent 14 years in jail. he's still in, going on 30 years. The one assassin, he's been on television in this area before. He spent 18 years in. He said that I admit to 30 murders. Why is Rick still in jail?
Talking about some of those cases, a lot of people are worried about Rick's safety if he gets out. How does he stay safe? And other people tell us he's never had a job in his life. He hasn't learned many skills in prison. How does he succeed if he gets out?
First of all, as far as his safety, he recognizes that his life may be in danger. But as he told me several years ago, right now, I don't have a life. I'll take my chances. As far as having a skill, I've been contacted by employers in the area, manufacturers who said, when he gets out, let us know. We'll give him an interview. We will train him. So where normally you learn how to be a machinist at 20, he's going to learn how to be a machinist at 49.
But Rob, we got this other enormous complicating factor. If he gets out, he would have 30 days notice to get out. But then we have these 22 months that he is still due to do in Florida for the selling, stolen car theft from inside behind bars. How would that then? You seem to be confident that he wouldn't necessarily have to do that time.
I just heard from a colleague in Florida today that I've been working with, and we're going to have a conversation over the telephone with the prosecuting attorney from Martin County. And we're hoping to be able to get them to not respond to a motion or not challenge a motion to change the sentence to run concurrently with his current sentence as opposed to consecutively. Yeah. If the prosecuting attorney in Martin County agrees to that, then Richard's sentence from the Florida matter will have run in 2011. I'll have more word on that probably the beginning of next week.
Fascinating conundrum for the state of Florida, really. Yeah.
All right, thanks for being here with us, and we will come back in just a moment. Yep. The white boy Rick story is the focus of Oscar-winning actor Matthew McConaughey. But he's not the only recognizable face you'll see on the big screen. What Kevin discovered when he visited the movie set.
And why a documentary producer says you'll be shocked by what his film reveals. He says interviews in his film allege a big name in Detroit police and politics wanted white boy Rick killed.
Hit the road this summer in the Chevy U.
Well, a lot of work is being done to tell white boy Rick's story, including a documentary released earlier this year.
And in it, the producer says new interviews allege a big name in Detroit police and politics wanted Wershe killed. Kevin?
This producer spoke to a former hitman who made allegations about now deceased homicide cop Gil Hill.
People outside of Detroit who don't know the story are going to be incredulous. He was a serious drug dealer for a matter of months.
The producer says his story will shock the world. What will shock Metro Detroiters are new, unsubstantiated allegations in the movie from a former Detroit hitman against one of the biggest names in Detroit politics.
He wanted us to make sure that we kill white boy Rick because he was knowing too much about the mayor, the chief of police, and everybody else.
Nate Boone Kraft went to prison for killing 30 people. He got out by cooperating with police to catch other criminals. Now, for the first time, in the documentary 650 Lifer, The Legend of White Boy Rick, Transition Studios will air Nate Kraft's interview, where he reveals the name of the person he says wanted him to kill Rick Wershe.
This came from Gil Hill mouth to me. But we got to make sure that it don't lead back to no one. I said, well, you know me, all my hits don't lead back to no one.
Gil Hill is the former Detroit homicide detective turned city council president who became famous for his acting role in the blockbuster movie Beverly Hills Cop.
I don't want to see any more of these blue slips. We're not going to see some arrest slips.
Hill recently passed away and cannot defend himself against these allegations.
Well, I was told to kill white boy Rick. He said, 125,000, I'll make sure that you get it as long as that boy dead. His key word, dead. 125. Make sure that boy's dead. We can't have him talking. Exact word, we can't have him talking.
Nate Kraft never told authorities any of this story and offers no proof of any conversation or meetings with Gil Hill. While in prison, Rick Wershe told the FBI that Gil Hill was taking bribes to cover up homicides. An investigation resulted in no criminal charges. Hill was celebrated at his funeral as one of Detroit's favorite sons. From behind prison walls, Rick Wershe tells me the documentary will bring a new urgency to his fight for freedom.
I think it'll have a big impact. I think people are going to be outraged. It's going to go back to the beginning and tell the 100% truth to basically stealing my life one day at a time.
Gil Hill is not the only target in this documentary. The movie says former Mayor Coleman Young went to great lengths to keep Wershe behind bars and asked why current prosecutor Kim Worthy has not made efforts to free Wershe after all these years. Producer Sean Reck insisting Wershe is a political prisoner.
This is all really punishment for having cooperated with the FBI and taken down police and politicians here in Detroit.
In the past, former prosecutor Mike Duggan and current prosecutor Kim Worthy both fought to keep Rick Wershe behind bars. This time around, both are standing on the sidelines, offering no opinion, saying they will let the parole board decide what's best.
Fascinating part of this. Now, the White Boy Rick story has captivated Hollywood as well. An Oscar-nominated producer bringing the story to the big screen.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey is leading the all-star cast. Kevin, you've spoken to the producer several times. Kind of give us a hint. What can we expect here?
Yeah, Hollywood's decided to focus on Rick Wershe's life as a 14-year-old informant and how police and his father could put his life in danger so many times at such a young age. You are behind the scenes of a major Hollywood movie, the filming right here in Detroit. Cars from the 1970s roll down Grand River, being filmed by drones flying above. Inside this people mover car, Matthew McConaughey shooting the first scenes of the White Boy Rick movie.
Look, Detroit's a character in the movie, you know. It's a character in the story.
Scott Franklin is producing the movie White Boy Rick.
And hearing, finding out that it was a true story, it was just fascinating.
Franklin has produced many big movies and has been nominated for an Oscar. He says this movie has drawn some of the biggest names in Hollywood because the story is so incredible.
It's not necessarily even, the injustice that's been done to him since, but, that trained FBI agents and law enforcement and police officers would actually manipulate a 14-year-old kid to the extent that they did. I mean, when they met Rick, he had never seen a drug. He'd never sold a drug.
Matthew McConaughey plays his father in the movie. The Hollywood megastar checked into the Oaks Correctional Facility in Manistee, Michigan for a face-to-face prison meeting with inmate Rick Wershe.
It was awesome. He's real down to earth. I love him. Nice guy. I think he'll do great playing the part of my father. I think he's real passionate about the story, and he sees, the injustice in it. We all talked, laughed, took some pictures. We shared some moments. We talked about, a lot of things. I couldn't have a better day in prison right now. It was a good meeting, and I came out of it feeling even better. To be honest, it makes me feel like he genuinely cares. He could have done this project and went on. And for someone that's been in prison for 30 years, you really don't think that people care about you anymore. And these people don't have to care about me. They don't need to care about Rick Wershe, but they do.
Rick Wershe will be played by a 15-year-old kid from Baltimore who has never acted. The producer calls it a life-changing experience.
We did a screen test. We put him with Matthew. The kid really brings it.
The majority of the movie was shot in Cleveland because of Ohio's generous movie tax credits. It wraps in Miami this week and is scheduled to hit the theaters in January.
Now, Kevin, I know you recently spent a few days in Cleveland. I'm sure that was fun.
Oh, I've been on a couple of movie sets before. It's always surprising how many takes the director wants. Same situation here.
Yeah, you can see why movies are so expensive to make. This was a winter scene, and Rick Wershe's going to deliver a pizza, and they have 100 extras in winter coats, and they're spending all kinds of money, and they end up filming this scene at 7 at night, and they don't wrap until 1:30 in the morning.
How'd your part go? I know you probably did it in one take, right?
One take deets. That's right.
One take deets.
Not exactly. I had one line, and it was about 15 seconds long, and it took 2.5 hours to shoot. I was so hot. It was 75 degrees. I'm in a trench coat, and the makeup ladies dotting my face with makeup.
But you kept sweating through it.
But we got it done.
I think that's all standard. Get to meet Matthew McConaughey?
Sort of. I went to shake his hand, and he's like, "Don't touch me. I got this terrible fever going on. You don't want anything to do with that." And I'm like, "All right, all right, all right."
Very courteous, no doubt. Well, a lot of life, of course, can happen in 29 years. New presidents, new music, new technology, new ways to communicate.
Indeed. As Rick Wershe awaits the decision of the parole board on his freedom, we look back on what's happened out here while he's been in prison. The White Boy Rick story. We'll be right back.